Jacob Parkinson, and today I'm going to be talking about genetic modification, thoughts, morals, and obligations. Basically, just giving you a deep dive on what it is, what people think about it, what I think about it, how it could be used, potential problems in the future. But I'm just here to make my argument. So let's get right into it. What is gene modification? So, genetic modification is the process of changing an organism's DNA to alter its characteristics. Scientists modify genes by adding, removing, or even editing DNA in a precise and targeted way. This is we call genetic manipulation, genetic engineering, or gene editing. So it has a lot of different names. Basically, just altering DNA, right? How genetic modification has been used in the past. So, genetic modification was first used in 1973 by two scientists named Herbert Boyer and Stanley Cohen, who inserted DNA into bacteria. Then in 1982, the FDA approved their first consumer GMO, genetic modified organisms, to help treat diabetes. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, the first GMO crops that were for sale to consumers, like tomatoes, soybeans, and corn, that were granted with pesticide resistance and stayed fresh longer. Finally, in 2015, the FDA approved their first genetic modified animal for use of food. And obviously, there's still been advancements in it, but none as drastic as these. That's why I didn't mention them before or after. There's two main different types of genetic engineering. So, artificial selection, everyone really knows that. Most people at least do. Selective breeding, or they at least heard of it. Match two parent organisms with specific traits, like maybe that these two male and female are bigger, and they create an offspring that is more likely to be a bigger animal and continue that cycle. Obviously, this does not occur in nature naturally. Humans are doing this, obviously. And then induce mutagenesis. Yeah, that's I definitely butchered that, but the use of chemicals or X-rays to create a mutation, altering specific genes or DNA strands, and this discovers gene variants that can be better than the original genes, right? So this is actually going into their DNA and altering it and changing it. So medical applications that can be used, treatment for genetic diseases, as we're saying. I mean, we're talking about two. We were just saying two parents um, creating offspring. We can alter that. Strides in cancer research, and then vaccinations and virus research. Some agricultural applications, creating pest repellent crops. Two, drought and weather resistant crops. And then three, faster growth and higher yields in crops, obviously. So the ethical debate. Now, with everything there is no light without dark in every conversation. And in this conversation, it sparks up an ethical debate about whether or not that this is completely ethic or moral. In a religious standpoint, you can make the argument that humans should not be playing God and creating their own unique organisms compared to the way the Creator made them. So is it unfair to animals too that were never asked to be altered in any way, be just ripped open and have their own DNA mixed and changed and possibly with an entirely different species in the name of science? A possible future to designer babies where you can adjust what kind of child you have. That doesn't sound great, obviously. Pros and cons. Pros, the possibility of solving world hunger, treating diseases or injuries that were fatal, or the other possible scientific innovation that could come from this. And the cons as I just mentioned, ethical and moral concerns, possible environmental risks, and the uncertainty of its long-term effects. Here's a survey. Clearly, this is a bunch of different countries. Not all of them, obviously, but about 15-ish. This was done in 2020 in November. Just so you have a little time date. It's kind of in the bottom too. But the question was about safety of genetically modified foods. Clearly, as you can see, most of the country does not think it's safe, or especially not the greatest idea. They should not believe that GMOs should be left food should be left untouched. That's the world opinion, or they don't know enough, and that's what they said. But in my opinion, it's not the same at all. To answer that question, I don't particularly like eating foods that have been modified anyway. But if we had more research and we had more regulations as well on this, I would be on board. I would definitely consume them for sure. Something this advanced needs centuries to flourish and expand, not just GMOs, but as well as other things like medicine and other technological advances. This has so much potential for the world to solve so many and possibly all of our human problems. Conclusion. This is not a conclusion. I just gave y'all my argument as to why genetic modification is a good idea and it's needed in the future, most likely, and that it's a priority. But I'm just here making my argument, so I want to know what you guys think. But thank you for listening.